Well, Catherine, we're going to make a Brie cheese now. Yeah? Oh, you like Brie,
yeah,
do you?
I'm looking forward to this one.
Ah, okay. Can you just imagine that lovely ripe and almost gooey? Yeah! It's almost like a spreading cheese when it's really ripe and mature, isn't it?
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It's going to be different to what you buy in the shop, but it will be similar.
Nice.
Yeah, we can't expect to make a factory cheese here.
No, I don't want a factory cheese.
Oh, I wouldn't want one either. All right, now we've got to first start with our hygiene. Can you just have a quick look inside the pot to see if everything is clean as it should be?
Yes.
And if it is, just about half a cup of water will be fine. And then just put the lid on and crank up the heat and steam the pot out. And that's enough to kill any bacteria that's in the pot. Good, that pot's nice and clean now, and if you can now pour in the 6 litres of milk that we're going to use to make our can. Actually, I've changed my mind. We're going to use 5 litres.
Okay.
Yes, because I'm going to use my homemade Brie mould this time. And that's very good for using for 5 litres of milk. Okay, now if you can gently heat the milk to 32 degrees centigrade, because that will be our starting point for the Brie cheese.
Do I need to stir it?
You do need to stir it because you're keeping it off the heat. Now just show everyone your holy stirrer here. It's a really nice stirring implement here for your cheese making. It's not compulsory, of course, but you can also have a wooden spoon with some slots or a hole in it.
Is there a reason for the slots?
There is, simply because later on when we put the rennet in, there's got to be some very serious stirring, and if the milk is not far from the top of the pot, well, it's going to slop all over the place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here we are, 32.
Very good. Okay, next is to put in our cheese cultures. So I've got here our 2 different cultures for putting in. First of all, we're putting in the starter, or the bacteria that's going to help to texture and mature the cheese. So can you put a little bit, just a tiny little sprinkle inside the lid? And it's going to be very hard for the viewers to see because there's hardly anything to see there.
Is that a bit much?
That's looking good, yeah. It's the tiniest little pinch. There's no real measurement. Just put it into the milk, that's it. And those bacteria are going to grow, of course. And then next we're going to put the same amount of our white mould in our Brie. And that will eventually then grow on the outside of our cheese. And what's that, the purpose or the role of that white mould sitting on our cheese? What does it do to the cheese? Do you know?
No, I don't actually.
Ah, well, it actually breaks it down.
Oh.
It eats the cheese from the outside to the inside and breaks down the fats and the proteins. And that's what gives the Brie and the can that lovely ripe moorish texture where it can virtually melt in your mouth. It's pre-digested, yes, fermented. That's fine. And the third component is to add our rennet. So we're turning that liquid milk into a solid curd. Got here about 20 ml of water and a syringe to measure out 2 ml of rennet. And it's best done if you just pour some rennet in the lid and then with your syringe take up 2 ml. So you can see accuracy is very important in our cheese making with temperature and with our cultures. Just squirt that into that water. Good. And then with the, don't pour it in yet, with the holy stirrer, start stirring the milk. Because we need that milk in agitation before the diluted rennet hits the pot.
Okay.
And it wants to be distributed everywhere at once. So stir and pour. Just plonk it in, that's okay, as long as the milk keeps stirring. Now it's important to stir for more than a minute, but no more than 3. Are you checking the time, or you're relying on me?
No, I'm counting in my head.
Okay, good. I would say you've got a good minute there, haven't you?
Just on a minute now.
Just on a minute, that's perfect. And now all we need to do is just set the pot aside and leave it to set into a solid curd.
Awesome.
Catherine, I can see that the curd has set in the pot. Do you want to just show the viewers a bit closer? Look at that, it's gone from a liquid milk into a solid curd. Good on you. Alright, well the next step is the final step of making our brie, and that's to ladle the coagulum into our brie mould. Well, what have you got here?
This looks like a plastic pail.
Bucket, yeah.
It's got holes, quite little.
Small holes, very small holes drilled on the bottom of the bucket, and the bottom has been cut out of it. Yep. And it's sitting on a microwave oven plate, which is then sitting on a cake cooling rack over a tray to catch the whey. So all you need to do now is to ladle the coagulum with your scoopy sort of ladle into our mould to then shape up the brie.
And I don't need to like slice it or...
No slicing. All you do is just ladle the coagulum into the mould to allow the whey to drain out at its own pace. Now that can take up to 2 full days sitting here on the bench, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
And do you need to... It's quite a big brie.
It's not going to be that big. It's going to settle down over the course of 2 days, and it'll be about an inch, inch and a half or so thick. Yeah. So we've got a 5 litre bucket here, and we start it with 5 litres of milk.
It's actually quite heavy.
It's a good curd set because
Yes.
we've used Jersey milk, which is very high in protein.
Okay.
Yeah.
Almost there. I can see the whey starting to...
Yes, that's right.